This is John Orr, and this is the insane story of how he ended up in prison for life. The tale of a man who was supposed to catch monsters but was a monster himself. You could say I had a unique hobby, a double life. By day, I was an arson investigator for the Glendale Fire Department, one of the best. I wrote articles, I taught seminars, I was respected. By night, I was the one starting the fires. People looked at me and saw a hero, a dedicated public servant. They had no idea that the very chaos I was investigating was my own creation. It was the perfect cover, wasn't it? Who would ever suspect the man leading the hunt was the fox? It gave me a rush, a sense of power nobody could imagine. Walking through the smoldering ruins of a fire I had set, pointing out clues to my colleagues, knowing I was the only one who held the real secret. That was the ultimate thrill. The fires just kept happening, popping up across Southern California in the 1980s. We'd see these daytime blazes, usually in retail stores, places that were full of flammable materials. They were clever. The fires would start small, in a pile of foam padding or stacks of polyfiber pillows, and then just explode. The patterns were eerily similar, but the culprit was like a ghost. We'd find these crude but effective incendiary devices. A simple setup with a cigarette, matches, and a rubber band. But there was never any solid evidence left behind. Just destruction and a lingering sense of unease that the person doing this was enjoying the show. It felt personal, like a direct challenge to every firefighter in the state. The fires at the 1987 Fresno conference, it was too much of a coincidence. We were all there, hundreds of arson investigators from all over California, gathered to learn how to catch people like him. And while we were in our meetings, fires started breaking out all over town. It was brazen, a slap in the face. It made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I started to think, what if the arsonist isn't just some random pyromaniac? What if the arsonist is one of us? The thought was chilling. You're supposed to trust the man standing next to you in a fire. But at that moment, I started looking at everyone differently, wondering who could be hiding such a dark secret. The devices were always simple, almost childish, but brutally effective. He'd walk into a fabric store, somewhere like Ol's Home Center, just another customer browsing the aisles. He'd casually place his little package, a few lit cigarettes wrapped with matches and yellow legal paper, all held together by a rubber band, deep inside a display of foam cushions or pillows. Then he'd walk out. 10, maybe 20 minutes later, the whole place would be an inferno. After the Fresno fires, investigators found a partial device that hadn't fully burned. The signature was there, the specific way the cigarettes were timed, the yellow-lined paper. It was a crucial piece of the puzzle, a calling card left behind in the ashes. We knew we were hunting a single, prolific offender. 2 years later, another conference, another string of fires. Arson investigators had gathered in Pacific Grove for a similar convention. And like clockwork, a series of suspicious fires erupted in the area. But this time, the arsonist made a mistake. At a craft store in San Luis Obispo, investigators recovered another device that had failed to ignite. This time, they found more than just paper and matches. They found a fingerprint, a single, clear print left on a piece of the device. The net was closing in, and the ghost we'd been chasing for years was finally about to get a face. Marvin immediately connects the dots. These fires only happen during arson conferences, so the culprit has to be an arson investigator. This man deserves a raise and a medal, by the way. So Marvin starts investigating on his own. He gets the attendee list from both conferences and finds that only 10 people attended both. One of those 10 people, you guessed it, John. So Marvin orders fingerprint tests on all 10 people. But the technology back then isn't good enough, and they can't confirm a match. Once again, the case goes cold. John is still out there, still setting fires, still getting away with it. Okay, so 2 more years pass. It's now 1991, and John is overconfident. He's been doing this for 7 years without getting caught. So naturally, he decides to write a novel about it. I cannot make this up. The book is called Points of Origin, and it's about, wait for it, an arson investigator who secretly starts fires while pretending to solve them. This is literally the plot of his actual life. In the book, he writes about a character who starts a fire in a hardware store that kills 4 people. Exactly what John did in real life. He also writes that the character gets sexually aroused by setting fires. Which I mean, sir, that's an overshare. This man literally wrote a confession disguised as fiction and tried to get it published. While he's writing this self-incriminating novel, John keeps setting fires. A store in North Hollywood? Fire. A Glendale fire that destroys over 60 homes? Fire. Part of Warner Brothers Studios? He literally destroys one of their sets. And here's the thing. Estimates of how many fires John set range from several hundred to over 2,000 fires. Let that sink in. 2,000 fires. This man is single-handedly responsible for what's essentially a small war zone of destruction. Finally, the fires become too frequent to ignore. A special task force is created, and they decide to retest that partial fingerprint from the craft shop fire years earlier with newer, more advanced technology. And this time, boom! Match, the fingerprint belongs to John. But the investigators don't believe it at first. They're like, surely he just contaminated the evidence while investigating, right? Wrong. So they start tracking him. They put a GPS tracker on his car, monitor his movements, and piece together the evidence. They question his supervisors, and one of them mentions the novel John's been trying to publish. So they search his home, find the manuscript, and start reading through it. And they're like, wait, this is literally just a detailed confession. With all the evidence piled up, the fingerprint, the novel, the pattern of fires during conferences, the tracking data, police finally arrest John. And after everything, after 7 years, hundreds or possibly thousands of fires, 4 confirmed deaths, and countless lives destroyed, John gets life in prison. Here's what gets me about this whole story. This man was supposed to protect people. That was literally his job. People trusted him. They saw him on TV and felt safe. But the whole time, he was the threat. He was the monster everyone was looking for. And he almost got away with it. If it wasn't for Marvin's intuition and advances in fingerprint technology, John would probably still be out there setting fires today. So yeah, that's the story of John the firefighter who couldn't stop playing with matches. Drop a comment below if you've heard of other cases where the person who was supposed to catch the criminal was the criminal, because this rabbit hole goes deep. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more true crime content that'll make you question everything. Stay safe out there, and maybe don't trust your local arson investigator too much.